taxi door swung open. Young-woo stepped toward it, and a voice cut through the street like a blade. "Don't get in that taxi!" The shout was so sharp that even the traffic seemed to pause. Young-woo stopped mid-step. The driver froze with his hand still holding the door. People on the sidewalk turned, and standing near a trash bin across the street was a small girl with a backpack too big for her shoulders. Her chest was rising and falling like she had been running. Young-woo slowly turned his head. His security team reacted instantly. 2 men stepped in front of him. Another reached for his earpiece. "Sir, step back," one guard said quietly. But Young-woo's eyes were already locked on the girl. She didn't look away. Most people couldn't hold Young-woo's gaze for more than a second. He was known across the city as a man who built an empire without mercy. But this girl stared at him like none of that mattered. Like something worse was about to happen. "Move along, kid," one guard barked, waving her off. The girl didn't move. Instead, she ran, straight toward them. Security moved fast. One guard grabbed her arm before she could get too close. "Hey, that's enough." She struggled, panic flashing across her face. "You can't get in that taxi," she shouted. "Please." The guard tightened his grip. "Another scam," he muttered, but Young-woo raised a single finger. Everything stopped, even the guard. "Let her speak." The guard hesitated. "Sir, she's probably just trying to—" "I said, let her speak." The girl rubbed her arm when the guard released her. Up close, Young-woo noticed how thin she looked. Her crew neck t-shirt was worn. Her shoes were cracked along the sides. The kind of shoes people wear when buying new ones isn't an option. "What's your name?" Young-woo asked calmly. "Nala." "How old are you?" 12. One of the guards scoffed quietly. "Sir, this is wasting time." Young-woo didn't even glance at him. His attention stayed on the girl. "You shouted because of the taxi," he said. Nala nodded quickly. "Don't get in it." Her voice trembled slightly. "There's a bomb." The taxi driver jumped back. "What?" 2 guards immediately moved toward the vehicle. Another pushed Young-woo farther away, but Nala shook her head violently. "No, wait." They paused. Her eyes darted around the street. They said that the bomb was only the first one. A quiet ripple of tension passed through the security team. Young-woo's voice lowered. "Who said that?" Nala swallowed. "Your guards." Silence dropped over the street. The guards stiffened. One of them stepped forward. "That's enough. She's lying." But Nala looked straight at Young-woo. They were speaking Italian. The guard froze, just for a second. But Young-woo noticed. "They thought nobody understood them," Nala continued. "But I did." Young-woo's gaze sharpened. "You speak Italian?" She nodded. "My mom taught me." "And where exactly did you hear my guards?" Nala pointed to the alley beside the hotel. "I collect bottles there." People walking past slowed down. Some watched, others kept moving. But the tension near Young-woo was thick enough to stop time. "What did they say?" he asked. Nala's voice dropped. "They said the Korean boss leaves at 6 every day. That he's predictable." A guard stepped closer. "That's private information." But Young-woo raised his hand again. The guard fell silent. Nala continued. "They said the taxi explosion will make everyone panic." Her finger slowly lifted, pointing across the street, to the cafe. "The real bomb is there." A cold wave moved through the group. Young-woo followed her finger. The cafe windows glowed softly. People inside were laughing, drinking coffee, completely unaware. "If you survive the taxi," Nala said quietly, "they'll detonate the cafe when you step out." The taxi driver ran several steps away. "Oh, hell no!" Two security men rushed to inspect the car. Another began speaking urgently into his radio. Young-woo studied Nala carefully. "You ran here to warn me?" She nodded. "I tried telling your guards earlier. They pushed me away." One guard frowned. "Sir, she's making this up." But Nala's voice cracked suddenly. "I'm not lying." Her eyes glistened with frustration. People never listen. The words landed harder than anyone expected, because a lot of people knew that feeling. Being ignored, being dismissed, especially when you're young, especially when you're poor. And if you've ever felt invisible like that, like your voice doesn't matter, then you know exactly why Nala kept running even when nobody believed her. She looked at Young-woo again. "I just didn't want someone to die." Young-woo remained silent for a moment. Then he turned slightly. "Check the taxi." The order was calm, but immediate. The guards obeyed without hesitation. Within seconds, one of them shouted, "Sir!" Young-woo's eyes lifted. "There's a device under the seat." The street erupted. The taxi driver cursed loudly. Pedestrians scattered. Someone pulled out a phone to call the police. But Nala's fear suddenly doubled, because she realized something. The guards she overheard, they might still be watching, and if they saw her standing with Young-woo now, her breathing became shallow. Young-woo noticed immediately. "Why are you shaking?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because they're still here." His expression hardened. "Who?" "The men who planted the bombs." The words settled like a storm cloud. Young-woo slowly scanned the street. Crowds, cars, neon lights. Anyone could be watching. He turned back to Nala. "How do you know?" Her voice trembled. "Because they said they'd watch from across the street." Every guard immediately reached for their radio. The tension skyrocketed. Young-woo's security chief stepped closer. "Sir, we need to move you inside." But Young-woo shook his head slightly. His eyes were still on Nala. "Why help me?" he asked. She hesitated, then said something that hit harder than any dramatic speech. "Because nobody helped my mom." The street seemed to quiet again. "She got sick," Nala continued softly. "We didn't have money. People walked past us every day." Her eyes glistened, like we didn't exist. She looked at Young-woo. "I didn't want that to happen again." For a moment, even Young-woo's hardened guards had no words. Because real pain has a way of cutting through everything. And if you've ever watched someone you love struggle while the world ignores them, then you understand exactly why Nala couldn't stay silent. So, before this story goes any further, take 1 second and make sure you're subscribed. Because stories like this, about courage, betrayal, and the moment one brave voice changes everything, deserve to be heard. And trust me, what Young-woo discovers next will change both their lives forever. Right then, one of the guards shouted again. "Sir!" Young-woo turned. The man's face had gone pale. "There's another signal. Someone just armed a second device." Nala's heart dropped. She whispered the words that froze everyone. "They know." The words left Nala's mouth like a confession. For a split second, nobody moved. Then Young-woo's security exploded into action. "Move him!" 2 guards rushed forward, forming a wall around Young-woo. Another grabbed Nala and pulled her behind them. Across the street, people were still laughing inside the cafe, unaware that their evening coffee might turn into a nightmare. Young-woo's sharp eyes swept the crowd. "Where?" he asked quietly. Nala's voice trembled. "They said they would watch from the street to make sure you get into the taxi." A guard spoke urgently into his radio. "Lock down the perimeter. Everyone suspicious gets stopped." But Young-woo already knew something was wrong. The men who planned this weren't amateurs. They wouldn't stand in the open like idiots. They would blend in, which meant anyone out there could be watching right now. A man walking his dog, a woman scrolling her phone, even the taxi driver who had just run across the street. Youngwoo turned back to Nala. What exactly did they say? She squeezed her backpack straps tightly. They said if the taxi bomb doesn't kill you, they'll trigger the cafe bomb when you step out. His jaw tightened. Who is they? I didn't hear their names. But they said something else. Youngwoo leaned slightly closer. What? Nala hesitated. They said the boss would never suspect his own guards. The words hit like a gunshot. Several members of Youngwoo's security team froze. One man slowly turned toward another, eyes narrowed. Because that sentence meant only one thing. The traitors weren't outsiders. They were inside, right here. One of Youngwoo's guards stepped forward angrily. This is ridiculous. She's just a kid making stories. But Youngwoo's gaze snapped to him so fast, the man immediately went silent. Your name, Youngwoo said coldly. Minho. How long have you worked for me? 3 years. And do you speak Italian? The guard blinked. No. Youngwoo stared another second, then turned away. But the tension was already spreading like wildfire. Every guard suddenly looked at each other with suspicion. Trust was cracking, and somewhere in the crowd, the real traitors were probably watching that chaos unfold, exactly as planned. A voice shouted near the taxi. Sir! Youngwoo turned. One of the guards crouched beside the vehicle. It's real. Military-grade detonator. The taxi driver cursed loudly again. I quit. I'm done. I'm not dying for a cab fare. He ran down the street without looking back. Sirens were growing louder now. Police were on the way. But Nala suddenly grabbed Youngwoo's sleeve. Wait! Everyone turned to her. Her voice shook. They said something about the timing. What timing? Youngwoo asked. They said if you don't get in the taxi, they'll activate the cafe bomb anyway. The security chief's face went pale. That place is full of people. Youngwoo looked across the street again. Through the glass windows, he could see students laughing, a couple sharing dessert, a tired delivery driver sipping coffee. Normal people, people who had nothing to do with Mafia wars. Nala whispered the words none of them wanted to hear. They said innocent people dying would send a bigger message. Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about Youngwoo anymore. This was about dozens of strangers sitting in that cafe. One of the guards cursed under his breath. We need to evacuate them. Another shook his head. If the bomb has a motion sensor or timer, moving people could trigger it. Youngwoo's mind was already racing. Bomb squad? 5 minutes out, someone replied. 5 minutes. Inside that cafe were at least 30 people. 5 minutes suddenly felt like forever. Nala looked terrified. I didn't know they would hurt other people. Her voice cracked again. I thought they just wanted to kill you. The honesty in that sentence made several guards shift uncomfortably, because most of them had accepted that possibility already. When you work in Youngwoo's world, enemies trying to kill you is normal. But innocent civilians? That crossed a line. Youngwoo's expression darkened. They crossed the wrong line. His security chief leaned closer. Sir, we should move you inside immediately. Youngwoo shook his head. If I leave now, whoever planted the bomb might panic and detonate it. Then what do we do? Youngwoo looked back at Nala. You said they were speaking Italian. Yes. And they believed nobody understood them. She nodded. He thought for a moment. Then something clicked in his mind. They're probably still communicating in Italian. The security chief frowned. You think they're nearby? I know they are. Jungwoo's eyes moved slowly across the crowd again. Hunters, watching their prey, waiting for the perfect moment. And suddenly, he realized something else. If Nala understood them earlier, she might understand them again. He turned back to her. Stay close to me. Her eyes widened. Why? Because if they're still talking, you're the only person here who can understand them. The realization hit her instantly. You want me to listen for them? Jungwoo nodded once. Around them, the guards looked uneasy. Putting a kid in the middle of a mafia situation wasn't exactly standard procedure. But time was running out. The sirens were closer now, still not close enough. Nala slowly nodded. I'll try. She looked around carefully. Cars rolled past. People walked along the sidewalk. Music drifted from the cafe. For a moment, she heard nothing unusual. Then, two men standing near a newspaper stand leaned toward each other. Their voices were low, but the words were clear. Italian. Nala's stomach twisted. She whispered quickly, "Those two." Jungwoo's eyes followed her glance. The men looked completely ordinary. One wore a gray jacket, the other a baseball cap. But the moment Jungwoo looked at them, one of the men lifted his head slightly. Their eyes met, and that was when everything changed. Because the man in the cap smiled. Not nervously, not surprised, just calm, like someone whose plan was already in motion. Then he lifted his wrist. A small black device rested in his palm. Nala gasped. He's the one! The man's thumb hovered over the button. Across the street, the cafe lights glowed warmly. 30 people inside had no idea their lives were hanging by a single movement of that thumb. Jungwoo's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Don't move. But the man with the detonator was still smiling. And slowly, deliberately, his thumb began to press down. If you've ever watched someone with power toy with innocent lives like they're nothing, then you know the kind of anger that builds in your chest right now. Because people like that exist in the real world, too. People who think money, power, or revenge gives them the right to destroy everything around them. And moments like this remind us why courage, like Nala's, matters. So if you're still watching, make sure you're subscribed. Because what happens in the next few seconds will decide who walks away from this street alive. Jungwoo moved, fast, but the man with the detonator pressed the button. And somewhere beneath the cafe floor, something started to beep. The beep was soft, almost harmless, but Nala felt it in her chest like a hammer. Across the street, the cafe lights still glowed warmly. People laughed. Cups clinked against saucers. Someone near the window was showing a friend something on their phone. They had no idea. Jungwoo moved before anyone else could react. Evacuate them! Now! His voice was low, but sharp enough to cut through the panic rising in his security team. 2 guards sprinted toward the cafe doors. The man with the detonator didn't run. He just stood there, watching Jungwoo with a calm smile. Then he spoke quietly to the man beside him, in Italian. Nala's blood went cold. They said it's too late. Jungwoo's eyes snapped to her. What exactly did he say? Her voice shook. He said the timer started the moment he pressed the button. The security chief cursed under his breath. Bomb squad isn't here yet. Through the cafe window, confusion was beginning to spread. One of Jungwoo's guards had burst inside, shouting for everyone to leave. Chairs scraped across the floor. People began standing up. But evacuation always takes longer than anyone expects. especially when people don't understand the danger. The man with the detonator chuckled softly. Then he looked straight at Youngwoo and slowly dropped the device to the ground. It cracked against the pavement. Broken. Useless now. Which meant the timer was already running. Nala's hands began trembling. "They planned this," she whispered. "They wanted chaos." Youngwoo stepped forward, but the two men had already started walking away into the crowd. Not running, just disappearing, like ghosts. One of the guards moved to chase them. "Sir, no!" Jungwoo's voice stopped him. "Saving lives comes first." Across the street, panic was growing. Customers rushed toward the exit. A waitress stumbled while trying to guide people out. A man in a suit froze in the doorway, unsure what to do. The second guard inside began shouting louder, "Move! Move!" But people rarely move quickly when they think it's just a drill or a misunderstanding. Nala grabbed Youngwoo's sleeve again. They said something else. "What?" Her eyes were wide with fear. "They said the bomb is hidden where nobody would think to check." The security chief's face tightened. "Great." He looked toward the cafe floor through the window. Tables, plants, decorations, 100 hiding spots. "How much time?" Youngwoo asked. Nala shook her head helplessly. "They didn't say." Sirens screamed closer now. Police cars were racing toward the street, but time was slipping away. Inside the cafe, customers finally began pouring out the door. Some confused, some angry, some terrified. One woman dragged two small children by the hands. A college student tripped over a chair. People collided near the entrance. It was messy, slow, dangerous. Youngwoo watched every second tick by. Then he turned to his security chief. "Get them out faster." The man nodded and ran across the street. Nala watched the cafe with growing dread. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "What if someone is still inside?" Youngwoo didn't answer, but the thought had already crossed his mind. Because no evacuation is perfect. Someone always gets left behind. A phone buzzed in one guard's pocket. He checked it quickly. "Sir." "What?" "Bomb squad says if the device is military grade, it could level half the block." Nala's stomach twisted. Half the block. That meant the cafe, the sidewalk, the taxi, even the people still running away. Her voice came out barely audible. "This is my fault." Jungwoo looked down at her. "No. If I hadn't said anything, maybe the bomb wouldn't have started." "You saved lives," he said firmly. But Nala wasn't convinced. She stared at the cafe doors. More people rushed out, but then she noticed something. Someone wasn't moving, inside, near the back. A young man sat frozen at a table, staring at his laptop like his brain refused to process the chaos around him. Nala's heart jumped. "There!" Youngwoo followed her gaze. The student still hadn't moved. Maybe he had headphones in. Maybe he thought everyone else was overreacting. But if the bomb exploded, he would never know what hit him. One of Youngwoo's guards saw him too. "I'll get him." The guard sprinted inside. Seconds felt like hours. Outside, police vehicles screeched to a stop. Officers jumped out. People shouted. Sirens echoed through the buildings. But none of that mattered to Nala. Her eyes were locked on the cafe door, waiting. The guard finally appeared again, dragging the confused student toward the exit. The crowd pushed them outside. The guard shoved him forward. "Run!" They all ran. Dozens of people rushed down the street, some crying, some yelling into phones, some just running blindly. Nala's chest tightened. "Is everyone out?" The security chief scanned quickly. "Looks like it." But Youngwoo didn't relax, because he knew something about men who build bombs. They rarely rely on just one plan. His gaze moved across the street again, searching, hunting, and then he saw it. The man in the baseball cap, standing at the far corner, watching everything. He raised a phone to his ear, spoke calmly, and then looked straight at Youngwoo again. Nala felt the chill even before he spoke. "They're talking again," she whispered. "What are they saying?" Her breathing quickened. "They said—" She hesitated. "They said the cafe bomb was never meant to kill you." Youngwoo's eyes narrowed. "Then what was it for?" Nala's face turned pale. "It was just to clear the street." The meaning hit him instantly. Clear the street, empty the area, make everyone run, which meant the real attack was about to happen somewhere else. Youngwoo's voice dropped. "Where is the second bomb?" Nala listened again. The men's voices were faint now, but one sentence came through clearly. Her eyes widened in horror. "Oh no!" "What?" Jungwoo demanded. Her voice broke. "They said the second bomb is under the hotel." Silence crashed over the group, because Youngwoo's hotel towered behind them, 30 floors high, full of employees, guests, families, hundreds of people. Nala looked up at the building slowly, the lights glowing in every window, and whispered the words that froze everyone. "They're going to bring the whole building down." If you've ever watched powerful people destroy lives just to prove a point, then you know why villains like these deserve to be stopped, no matter the cost. Because tonight wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about hundreds of innocent lives. And right now, the only person who knew the truth was a girl everyone had ignored just minutes earlier. Which makes you wonder how many voices like Nala's get dismissed every single day. And if people had listened sooner, how many tragedies could have been avoided? But there was no time for regret now. Because at that exact moment, Youngwoo's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out. A message flashed on the screen. "Unknown number." He opened it. A single sentence appeared. "Look up." Youngwoo slowly lifted his eyes toward the hotel, and on the rooftop, 3 red lights blinked, counting down. 3 red lights blinked on the rooftop, slow, cold, counting down. For a moment, Youngwoo didn't breathe. The hotel towered above the street, glass windows reflecting the flashing police lights below. Inside that building were hundreds of people, guests checking in, workers finishing shifts, families sleeping after long flights. None of them had any idea their lives might already be ticking away. Nala grabbed Youngwoo's arm. "They're the bombs." Her voice trembled. Youngwoo stared upward another second, calculating. Then he moved. "Clear the hotel." His command sliced through the chaos. Security scattered immediately. Phones came out. Radios crackled. "Evacuate every floor. Now!" Police officers ran toward the entrance as people began pouring out into the street, confused and frightened. Some hotel staff tried to stay calm. Others panicked instantly. One woman clutched her suitcase, refusing to move until someone explained what was happening. A family with 2 young children stumbled through the revolving doors. Sirens screamed from every direction now. But Youngwoo knew something about bombs placed by professionals. They weren't meant to be easily stopped. Nala stared at the rooftop lights. "How much time?" Youngwoo didn't answer. He had already noticed something worse. The lights weren't flashing randomly. They were synchronized. 3 bombs, working together, which meant this wasn't just an explosion, it was demolition. His security chief ran up beside him. "Sir, bomb squad is 2 minutes out." "Too long," the chief swallowed. "You can't go inside." But Youngwoo was already looking toward the entrance. If those bombs explode at once, the building collapses. Yes. And how many people are still inside? The chief hesitated. Probably over 100. Young-woo didn't respond, because the decision was already made in his mind. Behind them, Nala listened to the street again. The men speaking Italian were still nearby. She strained to catch their voices. Then she heard something. Her eyes widened. "They're watching the roof." Young-woo turned to her. "What did they say?" "They said the Korean boss won't risk going inside." The words carried a mocking tone. Even in another language, arrogance was easy to hear. "They think you'll run," Nala whispered. Young-woo's expression hardened. The security chief stepped closer, urgently. "Sir, you cannot go into that building." Young-woo looked at him calmly. "If those bombs explode, hundreds die. And if you go inside, you die too." Silence fell between them, because everyone knew the truth. The bomb squad might not make it in time, and someone would need to find the devices before the timer ended, but that someone would be walking straight into a trap. Nala suddenly spoke again. "They're laughing." Young-woo's gaze snapped back to her. "What else?" "They said once the building falls, the empire falls with it." One of the guards cursed under his breath. "This is about taking you out and destroying your business." Young-woo looked back up at the rooftop. 3 red lights still blinking. Calm, patient, like predators waiting for the final moment. Nala's hands began shaking again. "My grandma works in that building." Young-woo turned. "What?" "She cleans rooms on the 12th floor." Fear flooded her voice. She started her shift 2 hours ago. For a second, the entire world seemed to narrow around that sentence, because suddenly, this wasn't just a strategic situation. It was personal. Nala's eyes were already filling with tears. "She can't run fast," she whispered. "She has bad knees." Young-woo looked toward the hotel entrance again. Crowds were still coming out, but evacuation takes time, and people on higher floors might not even know what was happening yet. The security chief spoke urgently. "Sir, the bomb squad can handle it." But Young-woo knew something the man didn't. Bomb squads needed time to locate devices, to analyze wiring, to disable triggers. Time the countdown might not allow. Nala suddenly grabbed his sleeve again. "They're saying something new." "What?" Her breathing quickened. "They said if you go inside, they'll trigger the bombs early." The chief's face went pale. "They're watching you." Young-woo looked slowly across the street. The man in the baseball cap still stood on the corner, phone pressed to his ear, watching everything, waiting. Nala translated quietly. He said, "The Korean boss cares about power more than people." The man on the phone laughed, then said something else. Nala's voice grew smaller. "He said you'll prove him right when you run." The insult hung in the air, heavy, ugly. The kind of arrogance people with power sometimes use when they think no one can stop them. Young-woo studied the man for a long moment. Then he turned back toward the hotel. Nala's voice cracked. "My grandma." Her words didn't finish. They didn't need to. Because anyone who has ever worried about a parent or grandparent struggling to survive in a hard world understands that kind of fear. Working long hours, cleaning rooms, standing all day, just to keep the lights on at home, and villains, like the ones behind this attack, treat lives like that as if they mean nothing. That's the kind of cruelty that makes people watching a story like this feel anger rising in their chest. Because deep down, everyone knows someone like Nala's grandmother, someone who deserves protection, not danger. Young-woo placed a steady hand on Nala's shoulder. "Where exactly is she working tonight?" "Floor 12. Room cleaning." Young-woo nodded slowly. Then he turned to his security chief. "Continue evacuation." The man looked confused. "And you?" Young-woo walked toward the hotel doors. "I'm going inside." "Sir." Several guards moved to block him. "You can't." But Young-woo stopped them with a single look. "You work for me," he said quietly. "Yes." "Then help people get out." The chief hesitated, because every instinct told him this was suicide, but loyalty ran deeper than fear. Finally, he nodded. "Yes, sir." Nala stepped forward quickly. "I'm coming with you." "No. You'll never find the bombs without me." Jung-woo frowned. "You're a child, and you don't understand Italian." That stopped him. She continued quickly. "If they're talking inside the building, I can hear them." The security chief shook his head. "This is insane." But Young-woo looked at Nala carefully. She was terrified. Anyone could see that. Yet she still stood there, ready to walk into danger. For her grandmother, for strangers inside that hotel. That kind of courage didn't appear often. Young-woo nodded once. "Stay close." They stepped through the hotel doors together. Inside, alarms had begun blaring. Guests crowded the lobby, some crying, some shouting. Hotel staff tried to guide people out, but confusion slowed everything down. Young-woo grabbed a manager. "Roof access." 30 floors up, the man stammered. "Service elevator." Young-woo moved toward it immediately. Nala followed close behind. Behind them, police officers flooded the lobby. The security chief shouted orders. The elevator doors slid open. Young-woo stepped inside. Nala rushed in after him. The doors closed, and the elevator began rising. Floor numbers climbed slowly. 5, 6, 7. Nala listened carefully, trying to catch any voices. Then she heard something faint. Italian again. Her eyes widened. "They're inside the building." Young-woo turned sharply. "Where?" "They said the rooftop bombs are just the final act." A cold feeling spread through Young-woo's chest. "What does that mean?" Nala's voice dropped to a whisper. "They planted another device in the elevator shaft." The elevator suddenly jerked violently. Lights flickered. Nala grabbed the rail. "What's happening?" Jung-woo looked up, realization hitting him like ice. Because if the bomb was in the shaft, the elevator they were standing in was moving straight toward it, and the floor indicator suddenly stopped blinking, right between levels. Then the elevator made a sharp metallic crack and began to fall. The elevator dropped. For a split second, the world went weightless. Nala's stomach lurched as the floor seemed to disappear beneath her feet. Then gravity slammed back. The emergency brakes shrieked like metal being torn apart. The elevator jolted violently and stopped. Nala crashed against the rail, gasping. For a moment, neither of them moved. The lights flickered weakly above them. The digital floor indicator blinked once, twice, then went dark. Nala's heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. "Did we fall?" Young-woo steadied himself against the wall and looked up toward the ceiling panel. "No." His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "The safety brakes caught." Nala swallowed hard. "That means we're stuck?" "Yes." A deep silence settled inside the elevator. Only the faint hum of emergency power remained. Outside the walls, distant footsteps and muffled voices echoed through the hotel as evacuation continued. But up here, suspended between floors, they were alone and exposed. Nala suddenly remembered what she had heard. Her voice trembled. "The bomb in the shaft." Young-woo looked up again. The metal above them creaked slightly as the cables strained. "If it's real," he said quietly, "we don't have much time." Nala's chest tightened. "Are we going to die?" Young-woo didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled open the small emergency panel beside the control buttons. Inside was a phone. Dead. He pressed another button. Nothing. The system had already been disabled. Of course it had. The people behind this attack weren't careless. They had planned every step. Nayla wiped her sweaty palms on her jacket. We should scream. No. Youngwoo's voice remained steady. That wastes time. He examined the ceiling panel above them, a narrow escape hatch. But opening it inside a stalled elevator was dangerous, especially if the shaft itself had been sabotaged. Still, it might be their only option. Nala suddenly tilted her head. Wait. Youngwoo looked at her. What? I hear them again. Her eyes narrowed as she focused. The voices were faint, echoing through the metal shaft. Italian. 2 men speaking somewhere above them. They're on the roof, she whispered. What are they saying? Nala listened carefully. Her face slowly lost color. They're arguing. Youngwoo frowned. About what? They didn't expect the elevator to stop. The tension inside the cabin tightened. One of the men spoke again, his voice drifting faintly down the shaft. Nala translated slowly. He said the Korean boss should already be dead. Youngwoo's jaw tightened slightly. The second man responded sharply. Nala's stomach dropped. He said if the elevator didn't kill you, the shaft bomb will. Youngwoo looked up again. Now he understood the real trap. The rooftop bombs weren't just meant to destroy the building. They were bait, to force him inside. And the elevator shaft was where they planned to finish him. Nala's voice shook. They said once the elevator reaches the 20th floor, she stopped. Youngwoo's eyes narrowed. What happens on the 20th floor? Her voice was barely audible. The bomb is attached to the cable system there. If the elevator moved again, it would trigger the explosive. Silence swallowed the small cabin, because suddenly the situation was clear. They were trapped between floors. If the elevator moved upward, it might hit the bomb. If it fell, the cable could snap. Nala hugged herself tightly. I'm sorry. Youngwoo turned to her. For what? For bringing you here. Her voice cracked. If I hadn't told you about my grandma, you wouldn't have come inside. Youngwoo looked at her for a moment, then shook his head. You didn't cause this. But the men who planted the bombs did. His tone hardened slightly. Never confuse the two. Nala looked down. Her fingers trembled against the zipper of her backpack. I just wanted to help. Youngwoo studied her quietly. Most adults he knew wouldn't have run toward danger like she did tonight. But this girl had done it without hesitation, because someone she loved might be in danger. And if you've ever watched someone you care about struggle just to survive, working long hours, barely making rent, carrying responsibilities no child should carry, then you understand why Nala refused to stay silent. The villains behind this attack treated lives like numbers, disposable, replaceable. But to Nala, every person in that building mattered. Youngwoo looked back up at the ceiling hatch. We're not dying here. He jumped slightly and pushed the panel. It creaked open. Cold air rushed down from the shaft above. Darkness, metal beams, cables stretching upward into the building. Nala stared up nervously. Is it safe? No. Then he reached up and pulled himself halfway through the opening. The narrow shaft echoed with distant movement. Voices again. Italian. Nala listened carefully. Her eyes widened. They're still arguing. Youngwoo looked up through the darkness. What now? They're saying something about a backup plan. A cold feeling crept through the air. Explain. They said if the building doesn't collapse, Nala hesitated, they'll detonate the charges manually. Youngwoo dropped back down into the elevator. How? Nala's face turned pale. They said the detonator is already inside the hotel. Silence hit again, because that meant one thing. Someone inside the building was carrying the trigger, maybe even walking through the evacuation crowd right now. Youngwoo exhaled slowly. So, the rooftop bombs are just insurance. Nala nodded weakly. The man above them spoke again. His voice was sharper this time. Nala listened closely, then her eyes widened with fear. They're talking about you. What did they say? Her voice trembled. They said, if the Korean boss somehow survives, she swallowed, they'll kill the girl instead. The words felt like ice sliding down her spine. For the first time that night, real terror flooded Nala's eyes, because those men weren't just targeting Youngwoo anymore. They knew she had ruined their plan, and villains like that didn't leave witnesses alive. Youngwoo's expression hardened instantly. They won't touch you. But Nala shook her head slowly. They sounded serious. Youngwoo looked toward the ceiling hatch again. His mind was already racing. If someone inside the building carried the detonator, then the real countdown hadn't even started yet, which meant the rooftop bombs might still be inactive, waiting for that trigger. He climbed halfway through the hatch again, looking upward through the shaft. Darkness. Silence. But somewhere above them, two men were preparing to finish what they started. Youngwoo dropped back down. We need to reach the roof. Nala stared at him. How? Youngwoo looked up at the cables running along the shaft. Climb. Her eyes widened. That's 30 floors. Yes. And there's a bomb on the 20th floor. Yes. Nala felt her knees weaken. You're serious? Youngwoo nodded once, because sometimes survival meant choosing the only path left. And if villains think fear will stop people from fighting back, they usually haven't met someone desperate enough to prove them wrong. Youngwoo climbed onto the elevator roof. Then he reached down his hand. Come on. Nala hesitated, her heart racing. But she grabbed his hand and pulled herself up. The shaft stretched endlessly above them. A narrow ladder attached to the wall. Cold metal disappearing into darkness. 30 floors. A bomb waiting somewhere around 20. And 2 assassins waiting on the roof. If you've ever felt like powerful people in the world think they can destroy anyone who stands in their way, then you understand why moments like this matter. Because courage isn't about being fearless. It's about refusing to let evil win. Even when you're terrified. Youngwoo started climbing. Nala followed behind him, one rung at a time. The silence inside the shaft was heavy. Every movement echoed. Floor numbers slowly passed beside them. 11, 12, 13. Nala's heart jumped suddenly. Wait, Youngwoo stopped. What? Her voice dropped to a whisper. They're talking again. Youngwoo froze. What are they saying? Nala listened carefully. Her face went completely pale. They know we're climbing. Youngwoo's grip tightened on the ladder. How? The answer came seconds later. Because above them, something metallic shifted, and a small object dropped from the darkness of the shaft, spinning, falling straight toward them. Nala's eyes widened in horror. It's a grenade! The small metal cylinder spun through the darkness of the elevator shaft, bouncing off the wall with a sharp metallic clang. Nala's breath stopped. For one frozen second, the grenade hung in the air between them. Then it dropped again. Youngwoo reacted instantly. Down! He shoved Nala sideways against the narrow maintenance ledge bolted to the shaft wall. His arm wrapped around her as he pulled both of them tight against the cold metal. The grenade hit the top of the stalled elevator below them. Clink. Then silence. A half-second later, the explosion ripped through the shaft. The blast roared upward like thunder trapped in a tunnel. Flames and smoke shot past them, followed by a violent shockwave that rattled the ladder and slammed dust into their faces. Nala screamed as the ladder shook violently beneath her hands. Metal groaned. Bolts shrieked. For a terrifying moment, it felt like the entire elevator system might collapse. Then, slowly, the vibrations faded. Ash drifted through the shaft like gray snow. Nala coughed, her ears ringing. "Are we alive?" Youngwoo glanced downward. The elevator beneath them was now a twisted crater of steel and broken cables. "If we stayed inside," he said quietly, "we'd be dead." Nala swallowed hard. Her arms trembled from clinging to the ladder. "They tried to kill us again." "Yes." Youngwoo looked up into the darkness. "And they'll keep trying." Above them, faint voices echoed again. Italian. Nala listened through the ringing in her ears. Her face tightened. "They're angry. What are they saying?" "They didn't expect us to survive." Youngwoo almost smirked. The assassins above spoke faster now. Nala focused hard. "They said the elevator shaft trap failed." Her voice grew tense. "And now they'll finish it on the roof." Jungwoo continued climbing, rung by rung. Nala followed. Every muscle in her arms burned, but she refused to stop. Because somewhere 12 floors below, her grandmother might still be trapped in the evacuation chaos. And somewhere above, 2 men believed they had the right to decide who lived and who died. Floor numbers passed slowly beside them. 15, 16. The air inside the shaft grew colder. Smoke from the grenade lingered in the metal tunnel, making each breath harder. Nala's hands slipped slightly on the ladder. Youngwoo glanced back. "You okay?" "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her arms felt like jelly, but she kept climbing. Because sometimes the people who carry the biggest burdens are the ones nobody expects to be strong. Kids who grow up too fast. Kids who learn early that if they don't fight for themselves, nobody else will. And villains like the ones behind this attack count on that silence. They count on ordinary people feeling powerless. But Nala had already proven something tonight. Even the smallest voice can break a dangerous plan. Youngwoo reached the narrow landing near the 20th floor and suddenly stopped. Nala almost climbed into him. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed. In the dim emergency light mounted inside the shaft, a black device was strapped to the main elevator cable. Thick wires wrapped around the metal. A digital timer blinking slowly. 0 hours, 4 minutes, 12 seconds. Nala's stomach twisted. That's the bomb. Youngwoo studied it carefully. If the elevator moved, the tension in the cable would trigger it. Nala felt cold. So the grenade was just a backup. Yes, he leaned closer, examining the wiring. This wasn't a crude explosive. It was precise, professional. Cutting the wrong wire would send the entire shaft into flames. Nala whispered, "Can you stop it?" Youngwoo was silent for a moment. Then he said something that made her chest tighten. "I'm not a bomb technician." Above them, voices echoed again. The assassins were still talking. Nala listened carefully. "They're checking the roof cameras." Youngwoo's head snapped upward. What did they see? Her eyes widened. "They saw us climbing." The men above spoke again. Faster now, urgent. Nala translated quickly. "They're saying if we reach the roof, we could disable the main detonator." Youngwoo frowned slightly. "So, the rooftop bombs are connected to something up there." "Yes." The second assassin spoke sharply. Nala's face went pale. He told the other one to activate the manual trigger. A chill swept through the shaft. Jungwoo looked at the bomb strapped to the cable. Timer now reading 0 hours, 3 minutes, 26 seconds. If that detonates, the cable snaps. And the elevator system collapses, Nala finished, which could send part of the building crashing down. Nala suddenly felt something new creeping in. Not just fear, anger. Because the people who planted this device didn't care who died. Hotel staff, families, workers, people like her grandmother. All just collateral damage. If you've ever watched powerful criminals treat ordinary lives like disposable pieces in a game, you know the kind of anger that grows in moments like this. Because people who struggle just to survive every day deserve better than being caught in someone else's war. And villains who think money and power make them untouchable eventually face the one thing they never expect. People who refuse to stay silent. Jungwoo glanced at the timer again. 0 hours, 2 minutes, 58 seconds. We can't ignore it. Nala nodded. But we don't know which wire to cut. Jungwoo examined the device again. Then his eyes moved upward along the cable. Something caught his attention. Look. Nala leaned closer. A thin secondary wire ran upward along the shaft wall, disappearing toward the roof. It's connected to the main detonator, Jungwoo said. So if we cut that, the rooftop trigger might stop working. Nala felt hope spark for the first time. But the cable bomb might still explode. Yes. They stared at the device together, timer now reading 0 hours, 2 minutes, 21 seconds. Above them, the assassin spoke again. Nala listened. Her eyes widened. They're coming down the stairwell. Jungwoo looked upward sharply. How far? They said they're 2 floors above the roof access, which meant the men might reach the shaft opening soon. And if they saw Jungwoo here, they could trigger everything manually. The timer dropped again. 0 hours, 1 minute, 58 seconds. Jungwoo took a slow breath. Then he pulled a small knife from inside his jacket. Nala stared. You're really going to cut it? If we don't, the building falls. Her voice trembled. And if you cut the wrong wire? Jungwoo looked at the bomb one last time, then at her. Then we won't feel the explosion. Nala's heart pounded, but she nodded slowly. Okay. Jungwoo leaned toward the thin wire running upward. The knife blade hovered beside it. Timer blinking faster now. 0 hours, 1 minute, 34 seconds. Above them, a loud metal door slammed open somewhere near the rooftop. Voices shouted in Italian. The assassins were moving fast. Nala listened, her breath caught. They're saying they see the ladder opening. Jungwoo tightened his grip on the knife. Timer now at 0 hours, 1 minute, 12 seconds. Footsteps echoed above. Closer, closer, Nala whispered urgently. They're almost here. Jungwoo positioned the blade. One chance. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 58 seconds. The footsteps stopped above the shaft. A shadow moved across the opening. Then a man's voice echoed downward. Calm, cold, Italian. Nala translated slowly, her voice shaking. He says, "Hello, Korean boss?" Jungwoo looked up. A face appeared above the shaft opening, the man in the baseball cap, holding a pistol. And in his other hand, a detonator. The man smiled, then spoke again. Nala's blood turned to ice. He says, "If you cut that wire, I'll press this button." The timer on the bomb blinked again. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 41 seconds. The red digits glowed against the metal casing of the bomb strapped to the elevator cable. Above the shaft opening, The man in the baseball cap leaned forward slightly, the barrel of his pistol aimed straight down. His other hand held the detonator. He smiled like a man who had already won. "Careful," he said in Italian. Nala's voice trembled as she translated. He said, "One move with that knife, and he presses the button." Youngwoo didn't look up. His eyes stayed on the bomb. The thin wire still stretched upward along the shaft wall toward the roof. Cutting it might stop the rooftop explosives. But if the man above pressed the detonator first, everything would explode instantly. Timer: 0 hours, 0 minutes, 34 seconds. The assassin tilted his head. "You climbed all this way," he said casually. Nala translated again. "He says he's impressed." Then the man laughed quietly. "But courage doesn't stop bombs." His partner appeared behind him near the opening. A tall man with a scar along his jaw. He held a rifle. Both of them stared down the shaft like hunters watching trapped animals. Nala felt the latter tremble under her shaking hands. Her voice cracked. "They're enjoying this." The man with the detonator crouched slightly, so his face was clearer in the shaft light. "You know what I like most about people like you?" he said. Nala hesitated, translating, but Youngwoo nodded once. "Say it." She swallowed. "He says, powerful men always believe they're the hero." The assassin continued, "But the world always wins in the end." Timer: 0 hours, 0 minutes, 27 seconds. Jungwoo finally looked up. His expression was calm. Too calm. "Who hired you?" he asked. Nala translated. The assassin grinned wider. "You're about to die." He lifted the detonator slightly. "And you want business details?" The second man chuckled behind him. But then something changed in Youngwoo's face. Not fear, not anger, calculation. He glanced at the bomb timer again. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 22 seconds. Then he spoke again. $500,000. The assassin's smile faded slightly. Youngwoo continued calmly. "That's what they paid you." Nala translated quickly. The man in the cap blinked once. "How do you know that?" Youngwoo didn't answer immediately. Instead, he nodded toward Nala. "She heard you earlier." The assassin looked down at her for the first time with real attention. Recognition flickered in his eyes. "So you're the little spy." Nala felt a chill run down her spine. The man's voice turned colder. "You cost us a clean job tonight." His finger tapped lightly against the detonator button. "You should have stayed quiet." The words hit harder than the threat, because that's exactly what villains like him count on. Silence. Fear. People too scared to speak when something wrong is happening. But Nala lifted her chin slightly. "I did the right thing." Her voice shook, but she said it anyway. The assassin laughed again. "Did you?" He gestured toward the bomb. "You're about to watch hundreds of people die." The timer blinked. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 15 seconds. Youngwoo's voice cut through the moment. "You're wrong," Nala translated quickly. The assassin tilted his head. "Oh?" Jungwoo's eyes hardened. "You're not walking away from this." The man with the detonator chuckled softly. "I don't need to." He raised the device slightly. "When this building collapses, nobody will know who did it." Timer: 0 hours, 0 minutes, 12 seconds. The second assassin spoke sharply in Italian. Nala listened, then whispered quickly. "They're arguing again." Youngwoo's gaze flicked toward her. "What about?" "The second man says the police are surrounding the building." That made the man with the detonator glance briefly over his shoulder. Sirens echoed faintly from outside. The evacuation was nearly complete, but the bombs remained. Timer: 0 hours, 0 minutes, 10 seconds. The assassin looked back down the shaft, his expression now impatient. This conversation is finished. His thumb rested on the detonator. Nala's breathing became shallow. Young-woo's knife was still poised near the thin wire. 2 triggers, 2 explosions waiting, 1 wrong move, and everything ends. Timer, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 8 seconds. The assassin spoke again. "This city will remember tonight," Nala translated automatically, her mind racing. Something about his words felt wrong, something she had heard earlier. Then, suddenly, it clicked. Her eyes widened. "Wait!" Everyone froze for half a second. Young-woo glanced at her. "What?" Her voice came fast now. "They're bluffing!" The assassin's smile flickered. Nala pointed at the bomb. "They said earlier the rooftop bombs need the main trigger upstairs." Young-woo's eyes sharpened. "And if he presses that detonator now," she looked back up at the assassin. Nothing happens. Silence flooded the shaft. The man in the cap's smile vanished completely, because Nala had just exposed the truth. The detonator wasn't connected to this device. It controlled the rooftop charges, not the cable bomb. Young-woo's knife moved instantly. The blade sliced through the thin wire. The shaft echoed with the sharp snap. The assassin shouted, "No!" But the wire had already fallen. Timer, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 5 seconds. The man slammed the detonator button anyway. Nothing happened. His face twisted with rage. "You little—" Young-woo lunged upward, climbing the ladder with explosive speed. The second assassin raised his rifle, but the confined shaft made aiming impossible. Young-woo reached the top rung just as the man tried to fire. He grabbed the rifle barrel and slammed it against the wall. The gun clattered away. The assassin with the detonator swung his pistol downward. A shot exploded through the shaft. Nala screamed, but the bullet struck the ladder instead. Young-woo pulled himself onto the rooftop. The wind roared across the building. Police sirens screamed from the streets below. 3 explosive charges sat along the roof edge, their red lights still blinking, connected to the detonator. The assassin in the cap backed away, finger still pressing the useless trigger. "You should have died down there," Young-woo advanced slowly. "You should have run when you had the chance." The second assassin grabbed a knife and lunged. Young-woo dodged, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting hard. The knife clattered across the rooftop. They crashed against the concrete. Meanwhile, Nala climbed out of the shaft opening, her eyes locked on the explosives. 3 bombs, still active, still blinking. The timer on the cable device below had stopped at the moment Young-woo cut the wire. But these were still live. And the detonator was still in the assassin's hand. The man suddenly grabbed Nala's backpack and yanked her forward. She cried out as he pulled her against him, the pistol pressed against her head. Young-woo froze instantly. The assassin's breathing was ragged now. "Enough!" Wind whipped across the rooftop as police lights flashed below. The man's eyes burned with fury. "You ruined everything." Nala's heart pounded against the gun barrel. The assassin lifted the detonator again. "You think cutting that wire saved them?" His thumb hovered over a hidden switch on the side. Nala's blood turned cold, because she suddenly realized something. The detonator had 2 buttons. One he'd already pressed, and another he hadn't. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Young-woo." His eyes met hers. "What?" She stared at the detonator. "That one." The assassin smiled again. Slow. Cruel. Then he spoke softly. Nala translated with horror. He says, "This one starts the real countdown." And he pressed it. The moment the assassin pressed the second button, A sharp electronic beep cut through the wind. Beep! 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 3 red lights on the rooftop explosives switched from slow blink to a rapid pulse. Nala's stomach dropped. The man holding her laughed softly behind her ear. "You see?" he said in Italian. Nala's voice trembled as she translated. He said, "This is the real ending." Jung-woo stood 5 feet away, frozen, calculating every movement. The pistol was still pressed against Nala's head. The detonator remained in the man's other hand, and the 3 bombs along the rooftop edge were now ticking. Louder, faster. The second assassin, the one Jung-woo had disarmed moments ago, slowly pushed himself up from the concrete. Blood ran down the side of his forehead where he had hit the ground, but he was smiling. Sirens wailed below. Police cars surrounded the hotel. Blue and red lights flashed against the glass towers of the city. Yet none of that mattered if the bombs went off. Because the explosion wouldn't just destroy the rooftop, it would tear through the upper floors where firefighters and security teams were still evacuating people. Hundreds of lives, gone in seconds. The assassin tightened his grip on Nala. "You're going to watch," he whispered. Jung-woo's voice cut through the wind. "Let her go." The man chuckled. "You still think you're in control?" Nala could feel his breath against her hair. His voice carried no fear, only arrogance, the kind that powerful criminals often have when they believe nobody can stop them. But that arrogance is also their biggest weakness, because people like that forget something very important. They forget that courage doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like a 10-year-old girl who refuses to stay quiet. The beeping from the bombs grew faster. Beep, beep, beep. Jung-woo's eyes flicked briefly toward the explosives, then back to Nala, then to the assassin. He spoke again. "Your escape route is gone." Nala translated automatically. The man shrugged. "I don't need one." His finger tightened slightly on the detonator. This job only required one thing. He leaned closer to Nala. "Your death." The words hit like ice. Jung-woo's expression hardened. "Who hired you?" The assassin's smile widened. "You'll never meet him." The second man, the one with the scar on his jaw, suddenly moved toward the bombs. Jung-woo noticed immediately. "What are you doing?" he demanded. The man crouched beside one of the explosives. He pulled a small remote device from his jacket. Nala's eyes widened. "He's arming them, manually!" The assassin holding her laughed again. "Just in case you tried anything clever." The second man began adjusting wires on the device. The beeping sped up again. Beep, beep, beep. Nala's heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. Jung-woo looked toward the street below. Police snipers had taken positions across nearby rooftops, but they couldn't fire. Not with Nala being used as a shield, and not with the detonator still active. The assassin whispered near her ear again. "You should have stayed silent, little girl." His words were slow and cruel. Poor people always make the same mistake. Nala's chest tightened. She knew exactly what he meant. People like her were supposed to stay invisible, supposed to mind their business, supposed to let powerful men do whatever they wanted. Because when poor people speak up, they get punished. But that belief is exactly what villains depend on. They survive because good people are afraid to act. Nala swallowed hard. Then she did something the assassin didn't expect. She spoke loudly. "You're wrong." The man frowned slightly. "What did you say?" Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. "People like you only win when everyone stays quiet." Jung-woo's eyes flicked toward her, surprised. The assassin tightened the pistol against her head. "You're not in a position to give speeches." The bombs beeped again. Faster. Youngwoo suddenly stepped forward. The assassin shouted, "Stop!" He shoved Nala harder against him. Jungwoo froze again. The second assassin stood up from the explosives. "They're ready," he said in Italian. Nala translated quickly. He said the countdown can't be stopped now. The man with the detonator nodded. "Good." He looked back at Youngwoo. "You built an empire on fear." Youngwoo said nothing. "But tonight," the assassin continued, "you'll learn what real fear feels like." Nala's mind raced. Something about the bombs didn't make sense. She had listened carefully earlier when the men spoke Italian in the garage. They had argued about timing, about the detonator, about something going wrong. Her eyes moved toward the explosives again. 3 devices, but something was different about the one closest to the roof edge. A small panel hung open. Inside it, she saw something. A switch, a secondary safety. Her heart skipped. The assassin noticed her looking. "Don't even think about it." But an idea had already formed in her mind. Dangerous, almost impossible. But sometimes the only way to stop evil is to take a risk that scares everyone else. If you've ever felt like the world is controlled by people with money, power, and weapons, while ordinary people are told to stay in their place, then you understand the moment Nala was standing in. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to act even when you're terrified. The beeping from the bombs became almost continuous now. Beep! The second assassin checked his watch. 30 seconds, he said. Nala translated automatically. The rooftop wind howled louder. Sirens screamed below. Youngwoo's gaze locked onto Nala's. And somehow, she understood what he was thinking. Trust. He nodded almost invisibly. Her heart pounded. The assassin holding her noticed the look. "What are you two doing?" He raised the pistol slightly. "Don't try anything stupid." But it was already too late, because Youngwoo moved, not toward the assassin, toward the second man, the one standing closest to the bombs. The assassin holding Nala jerked the gun toward Youngwoo, but in that split second, Nala stomped her heel down as hard as she could, right on his foot. The man screamed. His grip loosened for half a second. That was enough. Nala twisted free and dove toward the open bomb panel. Behind her, 2 gunshots exploded across the rooftop. Youngwoo slammed into the second assassin. They crashed into the row of explosives. The detonator fell from the first man's hand and skidded across the concrete. Nala reached the open bomb panel. Her hands shook violently. Inside the device, 3 wires connected to the switch she had seen. She didn't know which one controlled the trigger. Behind her, fists slammed against concrete. Youngwoo and the assassin fought violently beside the bombs. The first man grabbed the fallen detonator. His face twisted with rage. "You little—" He raised it again. Nala's hands hovered over the wires. Her mind raced. Italian voices from earlier echoed in her memory. One phrase repeated in her head. "Il filo rosso." Her eyes dropped to the wires. Red, blue, yellow. Her breathing stopped, because suddenly she understood what the assassin had said earlier. Her fingers moved toward the red wire. Behind her, the man lifted the detonator again. "You're all dead," Nala pulled the wire. For one terrifying second, nothing happened. Then every bomb light on the rooftop suddenly turned solid red, not blinking, just glowing. The beeping stopped. Complete silence fell over the rooftop. Even the wind seemed to pause. The assassin holding the detonator stared at the bombs, confused. Then his eyes slowly lifted toward Nala, and he began to smile again. A slow, chilling smile. Because the lights turning solid red didn't mean the bombs were disarmed. It meant something much worse. And the man whispered softly in Italian. Nala translated in a voice barely above a breath. He says, "You didn't stop the explosion." Her hands trembled. "What did I do?" The assassin laughed quietly. "You started the final countdown." And somewhere deep inside the bombs, a new timer began ticking. The rooftop fell into a terrifying silence. The blinking had stopped. All 3 bombs now glowed with a solid red light. No sound, no countdown visible. Just a quiet, deadly glow. Nala's hands trembled over the open panel. I did what he said," she whispered. Behind her, the assassin holding the detonator laughed slowly. A deep, cruel laugh that carried through the wind. "You listened well," he said in Italian. Nala's voice shook as she translated. He said, "I followed the instructions perfectly." Youngwoo shoved the second assassin hard across the rooftop. The man crashed into an air conditioning unit with a metallic slam. But Youngwoo's attention snapped immediately to the bombs. "What happened?" Nala's throat tightened. I think I triggered something worse." The assassin stepped closer, gripping the detonator like a trophy. "That wire," he said proudly, "activates the thermal failsafe." Nala felt cold all over. "What does that mean?" The man smiled. "It means even if you remove the detonator, the bombs will still explode." Youngwoo's eyes sharpened. "How long?" The assassin tilted his head slightly. 20 seconds. Nala's heart slammed against her ribs. "What?" The second assassin staggered back to his feet and wiped blood from his mouth. "End it," he growled. The man with the detonator nodded, but instead of pressing the button again, he simply stepped back, because now he didn't need to. The bombs were already armed. 20 seconds. And counting. If you've ever felt the helpless frustration of watching someone powerful destroy lives without consequences, you know the anger that builds in moments like this. People who believe money, weapons, and fear make them untouchable. People who think ordinary lives mean nothing. But sometimes the most dangerous mistake a villain can make is underestimating the people they think are powerless. Youngwoo moved, fast. He grabbed the nearest bomb and ripped open the outer casing. Wires spilled out. Nala dropped beside him. "What do we do?" Youngwoo scanned the wiring with brutal focus. "This is military grade. Can you stop it?" He didn't answer. The second assassin suddenly lunged toward them with the fallen knife. Youngwoo spun and kicked the man hard in the chest. The impact sent him crashing into the rooftop railing, but the distraction cost precious seconds. Nala stared at the wires again. Red, blue, yellow, green. Her mind raced. The Italian conversation from earlier echoed again in her memory. Fragments, arguments, threats. One sentence kept repeating. "Sale sistema Felicia." Her eyes widened. "Wait!" Youngwoo looked at her. "What?" "They said something earlier." "What?" "They said if the system fails." Her eyes scanned the bomb again. "There's an emergency bypass." The assassin holding the detonator frowned slightly. "What is she saying?" Youngwoo's voice was sharp. "Where?" Nala pointed to a tiny metal latch near the bottom of the device. "There." Youngwoo pried it open. Inside was a small lever, barely visible, dust-covered, unused. "What does it do?" he asked. Nala shook her head. "I don't know." Behind them, the assassin checked his watch calmly. 10 seconds. The second man coughed and slowly stood again, leaning against the railing. "You're wasting time," he sneered. The wind howled across the rooftop. Police sirens screamed louder below. Nala's mind felt like it might explode. If she was wrong, if that lever triggered something worse, but if she did nothing, everyone in the building might die. Her grandmother, the hotel workers, the firefighters still inside. Sometimes the world pushes people into moments where fear and courage collide. Moments where you either step forward or live forever knowing you stayed silent. Nala grabbed Youngwoo's wrist. "Pull it." He looked at her. "You're sure?" "No. But it's the only chance." The assassin laughed again. 5 seconds. Youngwoo's hand closed around the tiny lever. The second assassin suddenly realized what they were doing. "Stop them!" He lunged forward again. Youngwoo pulled the lever. Click. For a split second, nothing happened. Then all 3 bombs began emitting a loud, piercing tone. The red lights switched to bright white. The assassin's smile disappeared instantly. "What?" He rushed toward the explosives. "What did you do?" Nala stared at the device in shock. "I don't know." Youngwoo studied the panel quickly. Then his eyes widened. "It's not disarming them." "What?" "It's transferring control." The assassin holding the detonator froze. "To where?" The piercing tone grew louder. Youngwoo looked toward the edge of the rooftop, at the nearby skyscraper across the street. His voice turned deadly calm. "To the external receiver." The assassin's face went pale. "No." Youngwoo nodded slowly. "The bombs aren't connected to the detonator anymore." Nala's eyes widened. "Then who controls them now?" Youngwoo looked at the assassin. "You do." The man stared at the detonator in his hand, confused, terrified, because the device was now vibrating violently. A new timer appeared on its screen. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 6 seconds. The assassin's voice cracked. "What did you do to it?" Youngwoo stepped back slowly. "You built a failsafe," he said coldly, "so the bombs couldn't be stolen." The assassin realized the truth instantly. The failsafe didn't disarm the explosives. It redirected the detonation signal to the closest active transmitter. The detonator, the one he was holding. His eyes filled with panic. "No, no, no." He tried to throw the device, but it was too late. The timer hit 0. The detonator exploded in a violent flash of light. The blast knocked the assassin backward across the rooftop. Smoke filled the air. Nala covered her ears as the shockwave echoed across the building. The second assassin collapsed to the ground in stunned silence. For a moment, everything went quiet. The bombs on the rooftop stopped glowing. Their lights faded completely. The piercing tone died. Youngwoo slowly walked through the drifting smoke. The assassin who had held the detonator lay unconscious near the roof edge. His hand was badly burned. The detonator was gone, destroyed. Police sirens roared closer. Searchlights began sweeping the rooftop. Nala exhaled shakily. Did we stop it?" Youngwoo crouched beside the nearest bomb. He checked the panel, then looked up. "Yes." Nala's legs finally gave out. She sank onto the rooftop, breathing hard. Far below them, police officers began flooding the hotel entrance. For the first time all night, the danger seemed to be over. But Youngwoo's eyes suddenly narrowed. Something felt wrong, very wrong. Because the second assassin, the one with the scar on his jaw, was gone. Nala noticed it at the same time. Where did he go? Youngwoo turned sharply. The rooftop access door stood slightly open. Wind pushed it slowly back and forth. Kriek. Nala's stomach dropped. Because if one assassin escaped tonight, the man behind this attack might never be exposed. And somewhere in the darkness of the stairwell below, footsteps were already running. The rooftop door slammed against the wall. The wind pushed it open wider, revealing the dark stairwell beyond. Young-woo didn't hesitate. "He's escaping!" Nala forced herself to stand, even though her legs felt weak. "You're going after him?" "Yes." Sirens roared louder below as police officers began rushing through the hotel entrance. Flashing lights washed across the rooftop. But Young-woo's attention stayed locked on the open stairwell, because the second assassin, the one with the scar, was the only man left who could expose who planned the entire attack. And men like that rarely leave witnesses. Young-woo moved toward the door. Nala grabbed his sleeve. He might still have a weapon. Young-woo looked down at her. And if he escapes tonight, he'll try again. That was the truth about people like the men who attacked the hotel. They don't stop when they fail. They disappear, they hide, and they come back later when everyone feels safe again. Nala swallowed and nodded. "Then let's stop him." Young-woo opened the stairwell door fully. Darkness greeted them. The emergency lights inside flickered weakly. Footsteps echoed somewhere below. Fast. Running. The assassin was already several floors down. Young-woo started down the stairs 2 at a time. Nala followed as quickly as she could. The stairwell smelled like smoke and dust from the earlier explosions. Voices from police officers echoed faintly from lower levels. "Clear this floor! Move the civilians out!" But the assassin wasn't heading toward the lobby. Nala realized it quickly. "He's going to the parking garage." Young-woo's eyes sharpened. "Why?" Her stomach twisted. "Because that's where he planned the first escape. And if there was a backup car waiting, he could disappear into the city before anyone even realized he was gone." They rushed down the stairs. 18th floor, 17th, 16th. Suddenly a gunshot echoed from below. Bang! The sound ricocheted violently inside the stairwell. Nala froze for a split second. Young-woo grabbed her arm. "Keep moving." They descended faster. Then another sound echoed upward. A car engine. Roaring. The garage. They burst through the stairwell door into the underground parking level. The garage lights flickered weakly. Tires screeched across the concrete floor. A black sedan was racing toward the exit ramp. The driver's door hung open slightly. The scar-faced assassin was behind the wheel. Young-woo ran forward. "Stop!" The man looked at them through the windshield, his face twisted with fury. "You ruined everything!" The car engine roared louder. He slammed the accelerator. The sedan shot forward, straight toward Young-woo. Nala screamed, "Move!" At the last second, Young-woo grabbed a metal barricade pole from the ground and hurled it forward. The pole smashed through the windshield with a violent crash. The driver jerked sideways as shattered glass exploded across the dashboard. The car swerved violently. Tires screeched. The sedan slammed into a concrete support pillar with a thunderous crash. The engine sputtered and died. Silence fell across the garage. Steam rose from the damaged hood. Nala's heart pounded as she slowly approached the wreck. The driver's door creaked open. The assassin stumbled out. Blood ran down his forehead. But somehow he was still standing. Still dangerous. He reached into his jacket slowly. Young-woo stepped forward. "Don't." The man pulled out a small pistol. His hand trembled slightly, but the weapon was still aimed at them. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled. "Someone else will finish the job." Nala felt anger rise in her chest. Because that's how villains always think. Even when they lose, they believe they'll never truly face consequences, that the world will stay unfair, that powerful people will keep hurting ordinary lives. But sometimes the story changes. Sometimes the people who were supposed to stay quiet finally speak up. Police sirens suddenly screamed louder as officers rushed into the garage from both sides. "Drop the weapon!" Red and blue lights filled the underground space. The assassin looked around wildly. His escape was gone. His partners were captured. His plan had failed. And for the first time that night, fear appeared in his eyes. He dropped the pistol. Metal clanged against the concrete floor. Police officers rushed forward and forced him to the ground. Handcuffs snapped around his wrists. "It's over," one officer said. Jung-woo exhaled slowly. For the first time since the night began, the tension in his shoulders loosened. Nala stood quietly beside him. Police officers began escorting the assassin toward a patrol car. But before they took him away, the man turned his head toward Nala. His voice was cold. "You think you won?" Nala stared back at him. He smiled faintly. "You still don't know who hired us." Then the police pushed him into the car. The door slammed shut. The vehicle drove away, leaving the garage quiet again. Nala looked up at Jung-woo. "Do you think he was lying?" Jung-woo didn't answer immediately. He stared toward the garage exit where the police cars disappeared. Finally, he spoke. "No." Nala's chest tightened. "So someone bigger planned this?" "Yes." Outside, emergency crews and police continued securing the hotel. But the real question now wasn't about the bombs or the assassins. It was about the man powerful enough to hire them. Nala sat on the hood of a nearby car, exhausted. Jung-woo stood beside her silently. After a moment, he spoke. "You saved a lot of people tonight." Nala shook her head. "I almost made things worse. But you didn't stay silent. That mattered, because in a world where powerful people often believe they can do anything without consequences, it only takes one brave voice to start breaking that power." Nala thought about her grandmother upstairs, about the workers who almost died, about the people who believed nobody cared about them. Sometimes, the biggest change starts with someone who refuses to look away, someone who refuses to stay quiet when something is wrong. And tonight, that someone was a 10-year-old girl who overheard a conversation she wasn't supposed to understand. Jung-woo glanced toward the city skyline. Lights stretched endlessly across the night. But somewhere in that city, someone powerful had just lost their entire plan. And they now knew something dangerous. Someone had survived. Someone had fought back. Someone knew the truth. Jung-woo's voice was quiet. "This isn't finished." Nala looked at him. "You mean the person who hired them?" "Yes," she exhaled slowly. "Then we'll stop them too." Jung-woo studied her for a moment. Then, for the first time that night, he smiled slightly. Far above them, the hotel lights glowed again as the building slowly returned to life. But the war behind the scenes had only just begun. And somewhere in the shadows of the city, a powerful man received a phone call. The voice on the other end said only one sentence. "The girl is still alive." Silence followed. Then the man spoke calmly. Then, the next time, his voice turned colder. "We remove both of them." The line went dead. Sometimes the world changes because one person refuses to stay silent. Nala was just a child selling flowers outside a hotel. Most people would have ignored what they heard. Most people would have walked away. But courage isn't about age, power, or money. It's about choosing to stand up when something wrong is happening. And when ordinary people stop staying silent, even the most powerful villains start to fall. If you believe people like Nala deserve justice and villains should never win, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay with us for the next story. Because the fight between courage and corruption is far from over. And the next chapter might be even more dangerous.